In this tutorial we will paint an olive grove. I start off with black paint and a bristle brush and lightly sketch out the scene onto my canvas. In order to get some extra drama into the painting, I exaggerate the perspective lines in the scene. You will notice that I curl them all towards the house. This will help to draw the viewer's eye towards the house, which is the focal point in this painting. I then broaden some of the main lines so that they can show through in the final painting. This will add to the rough and rustic effect of the knife painting. For the sky, I mix cerulean blue and white in different ratios to get lighter and darker versions. It's quite a cloudy day, so I lay in the paint onto the canvas in a circular motion to suggest the billowing of the clouds. To build up the body of the clouds, I use lighter and lighter versions on the left-hand side of the cloud. This indicates that the sun is coming from the left to the right in the scene. As you can see, I'm not trying to copy the clouds in the reference. I'm rather painting my own version of the clouds. You can't work particularly accurately with a knife, so it's important that you're not scared to use your artist's license when painting with one. You're not trying to recreate the scene on the canvas like you would with a brush. You are creating a representation of the scene using the knife. For the distant mountains, I add French ultramarine to the sky color. To get a nice crisp silhouette, I lay the paint down on the edge of the mountain and then spread the paint towards the inside of the mountain. As I move closer, I need to add more color in order to get the color perspective correct. So I add a second layer of paint over the first using a dull green. When adding one layer of paint over another, you need to use a very light touch so that you don't disturb the paint underneath. I then start adding some of the distant trees that are overlapping the distant mountains. Again, I'm using a very light touch. In fact, I'm pressing so light that the knife itself doesn't touch the canvas. Only the paint on the knife touches the canvas. As you can see, I lay these in using only dabs and dashes. I first concentrate on creating a silhouette of the tree, then return with a lighter green to tap in some highlights. For the foreground, I mix 3 versions of green. I take sap green and then add more or less amounts of yellow ochre and cadmium yellow to them. I then start to block in the field with these colors. As I do, I want you to notice how thick the paint is. When painting with a knife, you can't be stingy with your paints. On a practical level, you need lots of paint in order for the colors to blend into each other. And from a visual point of view, using lots of paint adds lots of texture to the artwork, and buyers just love to see this texture. You will also see that when I blend, I'm not trying to get a perfectly smooth shading from one color to the next. This rough blending adds texture and interest to the ground. Now you can see how those initial black lines are adding an extra dimension to the artwork. In the foreground, I notice that some ground is showing through, so I use black and burnt sienna to paint this in. To increase the sense of depth and perspective in my landscapes, I'll often add a bush or some long grasses in the foreground, which overlap the objects in the distance. When adding the olive trees, I create the shape of the tree and then drag a shadow away from the tree in order to anchor it to the ground. Also notice that the distant trees are smaller than the front ones to indicate perspective. I highlight these trees using an olive green mixture. Notice how I've decided to not paint the tree mass on the left. I felt it would overpower the painting, so I used my artist license to extend the olive grove instead. I then add a mass of long grass overlapping the ground on the bottom right. To do this, I used the side of a knife using a cutting motion. Now onto the houses. Even though they are the focal points in the painting, I still don't try to add a lot of detail to them. I only add in enough detail so you can make out what it is. To settle the large house, I add a few bushes in front and suggest the road leading up to the house. If you'd like to try your hand at knife painting, you can follow the real-time paint-along version of this tutorial on our website, onlineartlessons.com. Do you find painting with a knife hard or easy? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.